Man, my mustache and the beard is a mess. Hey, welcome to Square Body Stuff. I'm Chad, and we've got Squeaky back in the shop again. He's just kind of been in the shop for a while. In this video, we're going to kind of go over what I've got going on with the drive shaft and pinion angles and all that stuff. A little bit of what I know about setting pinion angles, because this differential is just kind of mocked up right now. I've got to check the pinion angle with the transmission angle and get the angle of the dangle and all that stuff set right so I don't have any issues with eating up U-joints. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, subscribe, hit that button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button so you get notifications when I put new videos out. Also, I want to have you go down to that description box below and check out my Teespring store. That is where you'll find my merchandise. I do plan on working on some other ones for the 80s models, the square eye guys, because I have had a comment that most of my designs are for the 73 through 80 or 73 through 79, whatever you want to look at it, round eyes. But I do plan on working on some other ones for the later models. So with all that said, let's get into what we're going to be doing with Squeaky in this video. I've kind of already got most of the kind of work done, because it does get kind of boring, you know, or doing the fast forward thing. I know some of you guys like that, but sometimes it's easier for me if I kind of get some of the work done, get my mind wrapped around what I'm really going to do with the video, and then just kind of explain it. Let me know what you guys think, which you guys like better, because I mean, this channel is for all of you watching. It doesn't really matter what's easiest for me. It doesn't really matter to me either way. But if you like to see the fast forward videos of me working on stuff and fast forward, or if you like me just to kind of get some of it done, I'll show you a little bit of what I'm doing, but maybe do kind of a mix. I don't know. Just let me know in the comments below what you guys prefer. All right, one more little thing before we get into the video on the drive shaft part. I got a little goodie in the mail today from Bobby Lawson with Bob's Creations. I'll put a link to his Facebook page down in the description box below. Hopefully I do. Hopefully I don't forget that. But go check him out. He does some custom work. He's the one that done the lock knobs for all my trucks. I got a video on that. Pretty cool stuff. I'll show you what I got. Check this bad boy out. I contacted Bobby and commissioned him to make me a one-off custom shift knob for old Squeaky here. Something I could really bang some gears. You know, the factory knob is okay, but you know, it's factory. Need something kind of cool for old Squeaky here. And this is what he came up with. It's just a piece of aluminum stock. He milled out, or not milled, but put on his lathe and turned down, polished it for me. I mean, it is slick. It fits my hand perfectly. Man, I could really bang the gears in this thing. Look at that. Of course, this here is my line lock button for the line lock for the front brakes. I thought about maybe trying to add the button into here, but I don't want to mess up this shifter. He done a really nice job on that. So go check him out. See if he can make you something custom. He does a little bit of everything. Does some shifter knobs, lock knobs like that. You can't see it. There, it's focusing. A lot of this work I'm doing with Squeaky, I'm trying to get done before the end of September. It'll be September, I think, 30th, and October 1st will be Noname Nationals at Jeffers Motorsports Park in Sikeston, Missouri. We're trying to get old Squeaky ready to go there. What it is it's a YouTube-only event, but that doesn't mean you can't go there for a spectator. There's spectator tickets available. That information is down in the description box. Go check that out. But as far as the contestants or whoever's going to be drag racing, well, they're going to have drag races, monkey bike races, I think a car show, Just a lot of fun for a lot of YouTubers that's going to be there. So it's going to be turn out to be a pretty big deal. So we're excited to be a part of it. So go check out that information. Check out the hashtag Noname Nationals. Google it, search it on YouTube, or search it on Facebook or Instagram. You'll find out all sorts of stuff about this event. All right, so from the last video, which was just kind of going over the tire setup, which that comes out great. These are the wheels that's going to be on him for street use. So that's what I went over in the last video. I've got some, ideas, or I showed what I've done with this, my drag setup. I've got the skinnies up front, the slicks in back, but you can go check out that video, see what I've got going on there. But this video, I found another yoke, a smaller yoke, because this one had the big, I've got it right here. Let me walk over here and show you kind of a comparison. And no, I don't know the numbers as far as the U-joint numbers and stuff. I've looked it up 100 million times and I never can remember, but you can see this one's quite a bit bigger. This is what was on the axle. The one that's on the differential right now, or the pinion, is one I had off of another spare 14 bolt, an older style, and it actually fits a drive shaft that I've got I might be able to use. And then underneath, since this was a two-piece, it had the carrier bearing right there, and then of course it just mounted right to the back of the transmission. The slip yoke was right here, and I'll show you that here in just a second. This guy right here is the drive shaft that came out of old Squeaky. It's a two-piece unit, and the reason it was two-piece is because the SM465 4-speed that's in them does not have provisions for a slip yoke out of the rear of the transmission, so they had to set up a slip somewhere, so they made these a two-piece. Now my other truck, it's a 79 short bed called Cream Puff. It has a Turbo 400 automatic, but it also has the same two-piece drive shaft setup, because the heavy-duty Turbo 400s that came in the truck, as far as I know, they didn't have the slip yoke in the back of the transmission. Now Turbo 400s did come with slip yokes for the rear end, or for the output. Those were mainly used in cars and other applications, but from the trucks, they were the heavy-duty units that didn't have the slip yoke. Don't ask me why GM done it that way. That's just how it is. So even my Turbo 400 automatic truck, short bed, has the same two-piece drive shaft setup, which I thought it was kind of odd when I started looking underneath the truck, but that's the way it is. And this other drive shaft is just one I pulled out of my pile. I was trying to find something that had the same U-joint as the yoke on the 14 bolt, and actually the output of the transmission, that 465, has the same size U-joint as that 14 bolt. I do have an issue with my slip yoke. This U-joint is a smaller size, and I don't have a slip yoke that has the bigger size to match that. So I'm gonna have to get with my drive shaft guy, give him the pieces I've got, give him my measurements, and we'll come up with the best case scenario, the best plan. I may have to put what they call a bastard U-joint in there, which one crossbar will be one size and the other crossbar will be a bigger size to mate up to the rear end or the transmission. Depends on where I put my slip yoke. Normally I put my slip yoke at the transmission end instead of the drive or the rear end differential, just to keep mud and dirt and stuff from collecting down inside the splines. So if you can understand all my rambling about the drive shafts, right now what I'm going to do is set my pinion angle on this rear end, because right now it's just the U-bolts are tightened up. It's just kind of sitting on the spring perches. I haven't tacked anything or welded anything yet, so I've got to set my pinion angle. And to do that, I think I'm just going to kind of explain what I'm doing on my whiteboard back here. I've got a little drawing. We'll look at that and I'll kind of explain to you what I've got going on. If I can find it, I'll post a link to a video down in the, it'll be in the description box at the very top. There's a video I found years ago that really explained drive shaft angle or pinion angle, and you know how the relationship between your output and your input and all that stuff. So if I find that, I will put a link to that video in the description box below. But for now, I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of an explanation on my whiteboard, what makes sense to me, and a little bit of a brief explanation of what I got going on. Okay, so ideally, this will be the transmission, this will be your rear axle, or your axle, it doesn't matter, front or rear. But ideally, you want your output and your output and your input at the same, like a parallel. But in the case of the rear differential, under power, it wants to rotate up. It doesn't matter unless you have a really solid 4-link or some sort of link setup where it's solid. Your suspension, your rear axle is going to try to pull up. So what you have to do is, if you're setting up your pinion angle, is to set a couple, like 2 or 3 degrees of your pinion angle pointed down compared to the straight line of your transmission. I hope that makes sense. That's the best way I know how to explain it. So if my transmission is at 0 degrees or 90 degrees, however you want to look at it, my rear end needs to be at -3 degrees, or it needs to be pointed down like 3 degrees off of the flat plane off of this. That way, when under power, it's going to try to rotate up and create that flat plane being parallel. It doesn't matter if you're a low rider where your suspension is, you know, really low and almost in line with your transmission, or if you got a 6 or 8 inch lift. You really need to have your pinion angle with it. And I need to back up a little bit, because this is with a U-joint here and a U-joint here. Now, if you have the double cardan joint, where it's got the 2 U-joints and then another U-joint down, those are designed to have that double cardan up here or down here, but normally they're up here at the transmission, and then your pinion angle pointed straight at it. Because if you watch that video, it'll explain a lot more than I can, and actually has a demonstration of how it all works. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's hard to get your mind wrapped around sometimes. But in my application, I'm going to have a U-joint here and a U-joint here. So I need to have my output and my input parallel, but with the axle pointed down just a little bit. So hopefully that makes sense. That's what I'm going to do, because that's the way they need to be set up. But right now, my transmission is tilted down at 3 degrees this way. So, and my pinion is actually up a little bit right now. But to get my 3 degrees pointed down, which I want, I basically got to set this at this angle at 0. That way, when the under load, that'll come up, and that'll set this at 3 degrees roughly, and have it pointed in a straight plane. Hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm not the guy to explain any better to you, because that's really all I know about it. So I do, go ahead and watch that video. I'll put it down in the description box if I do find it. And if I get my camera and my arms in line to show you how I find that angle. Of course, I haven't set the rear end yet. This is just the way it is. It's pointed up. But where I'm going to set it is right there. Because my output shaft on the transmission is about right here. So whenever this thing, if this is set at 0 and it tilts up under power a few degrees, then it's going to be parallel with my output on my transmission. I'm going to take these U-bolts loose on this axle and set my pinion angle at 0. Alright, now that I've double checked and verified my pinion angle off camera, just so I didn't miss anything, I've got that set where I need it to. I've got to double check my side-to-side measurement on each side before I do any welding, and then I'll tack weld my spring perches, get them tacked on real good. Probably won't weld anything yet until I am for certain this is the route I'm going to go. But for right now, this is the way I'm going to have it set up. So I'll get it tacked up. Once I do that, then I can get my spring or my shock mounts tacked on where I want them. I'll be able to get a drive shaft measurement to make a one-piece drive shaft for this thing, and that's going to be the other step. Once I get that measurement, then I'm pretty much free to pull the motor, transmission out, and do all that other stuff I'm wanting to do, which is going to be really interesting to look inside this motor after it's been hit with a 250 shot of nitrous several times. I know it was wore out to begin with, so I'm just kind of curious what it looks like on the inside after, you know, I don't know how many times I've hit it with the nitrous, the old gravy bottle as I call it. So it'll be kind of interesting, so stay tuned. We'll be getting into that engine for here before too long. And real quick before we end it off, I'll kind of explain how to get your overall measurement for your drive shaft length. If you're going to have a drive shaft built, you want to get from the flat of your yokes, measure from the flat to the flat, which is about the halfway between your U-joint cap, which would be this flat spot right here. So from this point, or the lower part, whichever one, from here to here on each yoke is your measurement you'll want to give to your drive shaft builder. On Squeaky, I've got 65 3/4 of an inch. So they'll be able to figure in how much slip you need depending on your application. You know, if you got a long travel suspension, you know, obviously he'll have to, whoever's building your drive shaft will have to figure that in. This case, it's not going to be not going to need a lot of slip yoke or a lot of travel on the drive shaft. So I'll take this measurement to my drive shaft builder. We'll go over what we got to do and get Squeaky a drive shaft built. Now, in years past, I've built my own drive shafts before, set up a V-blocks and dial indicators and all that stuff. But I think for this application, I'm going to go ahead and just outsource that project. It'll be easier to just take him what parts I have as far as the yokes, the ends for the drive shaft, and the measurements I have, and let them build it, balance it, and that way they know, and let them know what kind of application I've got, because I'm going to be, you know, putting some horsepower down to this thing. So I want to make sure I get a stout enough drive shaft built for this thing. So I'm going to outsource that so I know I get it done right. Hopefully you guys have learned something about setting the pinion angle, at least how I do it. Now, I've been setting them up this way for, you know, a lot of years. I used to build off-road rock crawlers and different things, so I know a little bit about suspension geometry and setting up pinion angles and everything. So this is the way I do it. It works for me. Feel free to do your research to find out what works best for you. But like I said earlier, check that video out. Hopefully I found it, because I think I mentioned it like 3 times now in this video. Go check it out, because it really explains a lot about pinion angle, drive shaft angle, different uses of U-joints and stuff like that. So go check that out. So that's where I'm going to end it off. Till next time, y'all keep your square bodies rolling, and we'll catch you later.